Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. I am Rainey Thompson. I am a speech-language pathologist at the Callier Center, and I would like to introduce our featured speakers, Kristina and Valmichael. I had the privilege of working with their son, Joseph, in our fall 2022 semester of the Talking Toddlers program. Joseph's can-do spirit was evident in his commonly used phrase of, "I do it." His curiosity and tenacity to learn and grow, his communication skills showed bright in his question of, "What is that?" and frequent reply of, "Oh, I knew that," whatever we were able to provide him with the word he was asking about. He is a joy and a determined spirit, and it has been a pleasure to serve Joseph and his family. Please join me in welcoming Kristina and Valmichael Leos to share Joseph's story.
I'm going first. Well, that was a good lunch, and I just want to say hi. We're going to introduce ourselves here in a minute. My name is Valmichael Leos. Val, you can call me Val for short. It's much easier. And this is my beautiful, sweet, caring wife, Kristina. First of all, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks Collier's development team for inviting us here today. Thank everyone at the Callier Center who helped make this luncheon possible. We feel very blessed to be able to share our story with you here today. Kristina and I have 3 children. Eileen, Ellie, who is 5. Joseph, who you'll hear about quite a bit today. He's 3, and most recently, little Victoria, who's 4 weeks old. Yes. There she is. Hold on, I just gotta look at her. Make some good kids, huh? Beautiful kids. Okay, so we're going to do a little tag teaming here, so in speaking, so you ready? Yeah. All right.
When Joseph was a newborn, I almost knew immediately that he was having problems with eating. I'm a NICU nurse in Dallas, and I knew something was wrong with the way he was swallowing. I reached out to his pediatrician, and she told me his feeding issues were something he would outgrow and just dismiss my concerns. Just give him some time, she said. One night I was up feeding him and he started choking. He went limp from choking so much. I almost had to do CPR on my tiny baby. The next night, the same thing happened again. I knew something was wrong, and I reached out to some of the people that I knew in the medical community, and they told me that I should look into Callier, which was kind of interesting because I went to nursing school across the street from Callier. I used to eat lunch in the cafeteria at Callier because it was like the best food that was around there. And so I also talked to a speech therapist that I work with, who's very well known in the infant feeding community, and she told me to look into Callier as well. In particular, someone named Jenny McLaughlin. I emailed Jenny in the hopes of seeing her very quickly because I knew we didn't have a lot of time. We were so lucky that Jenny was able to get him into Callier. We drove to the Richardson location, which is pretty far from us. We live 35 minutes south of Dallas in a little town called Midlothian, but it was worth the drive 100% to meet with her. She confirmed my suspicion that there was in fact a problem the way that Joseph swallowed. She saw him cough, choke, and that he had a noisy airway. I felt like we finally had someone on our side and someone that would listen to me. Through Collier's infant feeding program, Jenny provided us with feeding tips and the newest research for Joseph's issue. We were so grateful that Joseph was getting the treatment that he needed so desperately.
So, despite everything we tried for Joseph, he was still not eating completely normal. As a matter of fact, after a few months of feeding therapy, his continued weight loss finally got the doctor's attentions, and they took him seriously. However, at this time, the world was going through a small, tiny global pandemic you may have heard of, called COVID-19, which meant hospitals and doctors literally closed their doors unless it was an emergency. And Joseph was not an emergency at the time. Finally, because of his weight loss, the doctors took a closer look at Joseph and said, we need to look at his airway. That's right here, for the non-medical people like me. So with this news and the closure of the medical facilities, Jenny, who we mentioned earlier, and I'll just refer to as one of Joseph's angels, Collier's clinician, continued to help guide us through this difficult time. Callier had become my family's hope for Joseph. As soon as in-person medical care was finally reopened, Joseph's physicians determined that he was born with a hole in his airway, which allowed food to go into his lungs, which I think it's supposed to not go in your lungs, it's supposed to go in your stomach. So that was a big problem. We finally had an explanation. We finally understood why he would be turning blue when we fed him. Joseph progressed through a series of 5 medical procedures before the age of 2 to close that hole. Now, I'm a guy, and that was kind of hard for me to deal with. I can't imagine my poor wife here having to deal with this, who was much more emotionally invested than I could ever be because she's in the medical field. Collier's speech-language clinician, Jenny, worked with our family and walked with us through all this whole challenging experience. At this point, we thought we're getting to the end of our time with Callier, but in actuality, it was just the beginning.
When Joseph was around 2, I noticed something was wrong with his speech and language. We'd go to birthday parties and all the other kids would be saying words and communicating, and Joseph just stood there. He never babbled, he never said anything. My baby was silent. I again brought it up to the pediatrician, and she recommended we receive speech therapy. Initially, he went to a therapy center close to our house, and after a few sessions, the speech therapist sat down with us and said, he has a very severe problem with his speech. His speech was that of an 8-month-old, even though he was 2. All my friends' kids were saying mama and dada, and my kids said nothing. I prayed so hard one day to be able to hear him say the words mama or I love you. His speech therapist told me it was likely he would never talk. She also talked to me about the AACs, the augmented and alternative communication devices. So my daughter and I sat down and we watched all the little baby sign language shows to try to learn how to communicate with Joseph. I spent weeks in complete denial that my son would never speak. So many thoughts flooded my mind. Would he ever have friends? Would he have a career? We went to the park that same week, and he wanted to play with a little girl. And the little girl said, I can't play with you because you don't talk. And that was like a defining moment for me. The more I thought about it, the more I knew we had to get a second opinion. I again asked around, and people told me to come back to Callier. Callier had been instrumental in Joseph's feeding therapy, and we knew we needed Callier again. But this time it would help with our precious son's communication. With Joseph's diagnosis of a speech delay, the Callier communication program was a perfect fit. He went into the pre-verbal communication program, and we cannot say enough wonderful things about this program and how it changed the trajectory of Joseph's ability to communicate and connect. Every session, we were met at the door with smiling faces of clinicians, Michelle and Jessica, and Joseph's graduate student named Kaylee. The team was always optimistic, unlike the therapist that we had initially gone to that told me he would never talk. And they focused on his strengths instead of his weaknesses. Collier's pre-verbal communication program was designed so that Joseph's graduate student, Kaylee, was able to provide the one-on-one therapy he needed, and he loved Miss Kaylee. Michelle and Jessica helped me understand Joseph's speech issues. They provided helpful information so that I can continue to work on his progress even when we are away from the program. In the beginning, Joseph could not talk. However, he could still communicate non-verbally how excited he was to go to Callier. Eventually, he began to say speech school to verbally express his eagerness for therapy sessions. In this program, Joseph literally learned to talk. He began the program again speaking 0 words, and he graduated Collier's pre-verbal program in 2022, saying words that we thought he would never say. On Christmas, he learned to say mama, and then broke my heart, and dada, among many other words. Joseph not only talked, but he learned to sing. Every day, he learned his 2 songs that they taught him in speech school. And it was Row, Row, Row Your Boat and the Itsy Bitsy Spider. His improvement was rapid, and Valmichael and I are profoundly grateful.
So, the story continues. After graduating from Collier's pre-verbal communication program with honors, I might add. Joseph was enrolled in Talking Toddlers, where he continued to make huge strides in his communication. Through Talking Toddlers, Joseph received group therapy, which helped him grow in his ability to communicate, to connect with friends in class. Another angel, Rami Thomas, another Callier clinician, and graduate students worked one-on-one with my son on his individual goals, addressing his language delay. Joseph was thriving. His vocabulary and ability to use words and phrases to express his wants and needs was ever growing thanks to the Collier's programs. Every morning when Joseph woke up, he wouldn't say dada. No, he would say mama, speech school. Which was awesome, by the way. Which is awesome.
Even yesterday, he was in the car crying, he wanted to go to speech school. I was like, it's Sunday.
Exactly. So like my wife mentioned, even though we live 35 miles, if you put minutes, it's miles, south of Dallas, it took an hour. Yeah, you're right, 35 minutes. Yeah, it takes an hour with traffic to get to Callier. But we knew, despite the distance to drive to Dallas, we knew that's what exactly what Joseph needed. Callier was truly the highlight of his week. Joseph's therapist poured into his communication skills and genuinely cared about his development. A few months ago, Joseph graduated, again with honors, the Talking Toddlers program for communicative 3-year-olds. And he's a little boy who loves cars, dinosaurs, and Paw Patrol. Callier has recommended for Joseph to begin their specialized speech sound production program, Speech Language Delays and Disorders, to continue to improve his speech a little more intelligibly. This is exciting because we look forward to watching Joseph continue to thrive through Collier's programs. I mentioned at the beginning that we just had a baby, Victoria, who is 4 weeks old, and unfortunately, Victoria was born with some feeding issues, much like Joseph. She spent the last month at the neonatal intensive care unit here at Baylor, at Bumsey, because of these feeding issues. Normally, prior to Joseph, we would be freaking out. But honestly, we're not. Because we know that Callier is a resource and can help our newest Laos family member in her feeding journey. Callier has provided my family with peace of mind with their leading edge therapy and treatment solutions. Callier is truly awesome.
Joseph's treatment and therapy at the Callier Center was undergirded by donors like you. Insurance does not always cover the therapy needed. Since Joseph had his swallowing problems and his speech problems, we quickly ran out of insurance paid therapy sessions within 3 months. We knew that he needed to continue at the Callier Center where he made such amazing progress. However, we weren't sure how we could afford it. I looked into picking extra shifts at work, selling stuff, but then I contacted Callier and they said that they could help us. They were able to offer a reduced rate for Joseph to go to therapy. The rate reduction is because of donors like you. He's now thriving because of the Callier Center.
My turn already? It's getting shorter and shorter. So the growth we saw and continue to see in our son's life is ever-changing, life-changing, amazing. For him and for our family. Oh, what a handsome boy. Those dimples, oh my gosh. I don't know where he gets them. I don't have dimples. Joseph went from likely not speaking to truly communicating. Not only communicating with us, but with his sisters, with peers, and other adults as well. He has friends now, which ironically I'm still trying to work on. He can play with his sister. He communicates his needs with us. And from the very beginning, Callier has exceeded our expectations. Their unique service and programs were the catalyst for Joseph's transformation. Hey, I'm sorry, I know we sound like a broken record up here when we say we want to again express our sincere gratitude to the team at Callier that supported Joseph. Thank you for truly seeing our child. You saw past his quietness and helped uncover the most joyful child who loves to talk. Yeah, thanks, Callier. You will forever be part of Joseph's story, and our thank you just doesn't seem like enough. So let's see what Joseph has to say. Maybe, Joseph, can you help us?
Say thank you.
Shy?
Yay!